Welcome to the Code With Me video for Chapter 16. In this video, we're going to be talking about the layout strategies and introducing ourselves to responsive design. So go ahead and open up brackets and a browser window and open up Chapter 16 in the student data files in brackets. The first thing we're going to do is look in the uniforms folder because we're actually going to be exploring the fixed layout, fluid layout, and responsive layout. So the first thing we're going to do is load the index file in Chrome. Take a look at it. And we can see that overall, it's a nice layout. Well, we can scroll up and down, not much there. But as soon as we decrease the actual size, we notice that, well, based on the fact that we have the space itself and a fixed width, it's actually going to not fit inside of our decreased browser window. So therefore, a fixed width does not work on narrow screens. Users must scroll horizontally to view all the content. So this is a poor design. Users should never have to scroll sideways unless they specifically want to do so. There are a few CSS Zengarden designs that can scroll sideways, but overall it's not a good practice to do so. So back in, well, actually in Chrome, we can actually click the fluid link, take a look at it, and there's not much difference in the viewability, but if you increase the size of the actual browser, not much has changed. If you decrease the size of the browser, you can see all the content is being squished so that it resizes everything to make it fit inside the browser. However, once you get to a certain point, well, like these things down here, they don't fit inside of a fluid design because it doesn't really stack that well. So what we can do is we can actually go back and check the responsive layout to see how that would work. We go back, go to responsive, and visually there may not be a difference. But the main key will come once you resize everything and you notice, whoa, okay, the green background disappeared. And now, instead of having these gray boxes stacked next to each other, they're now stacked on top of each other. We increase the browser window, and they go back to being next. We decrease the browser window, the background disappears, and they are stacked. So this way, we can actually show that the browser itself has been narrowed like it would be in a mobile environment. And all the information in the page can still be viewed. So at a specific width, in this case 675 pixels, the layout changes. The design spans the full width of the window and the wrapper no longer has a border. The three columns at the bottom change to a single column layout, and the heading underneath each photo in the bottom columns shift to display above the photo instead. Let's take a look at that. Yes, the heading items are below the photos here. Once we decrease the size, they bump above the photo. That's neat. We can narrow the browser window until the main navigation bar at the top disappears. These three items right here. Keep decreasing the size, and whoa, it disappeared from us. At yet another width, in this case 550 pixels, the layout changes again. The navigation bar is replaced with mobile navigation. The image at the top is no longer floated, so the paragraph displays under it rather than wrapping around it. So click on the menu. Do we have a menu? We do not. Where did menu? There it is. We can click on the menu and actually choose the different items from here. Once we increase the browser window to a point, the menu reappears. We decrease it, it reappears at the top. Nice. Okay, that's not a lot for this one, so we're going to keep moving on. Activity 6.2, or 16.2, bleh. Going to maximize this browser window, going to decrease the vertical size. Alright, we're going to go back out of that, go to Poolscapes. Open Poolscapes in brackets, right here. And preview the index page in Chrome. Index page, right here. Okay. So all the HTML has been provided for you, and it is already linked to a CSS file, but there is no CSS code. We will code the CSS ourselves. We have a deep understanding of the base code. So we need to return to brackets and display the index page. Index page is linked to a CSS page. Let's take a look at that. And yes, there is nothing except some font importing. Okay. So take some time to read through the HTML code and comments to familiarize yourself with the structure. The comments indicate why certain events, such as the div, were used and why content is wrapped in certain elements. The final design is comprised of 7 rows that alternate between one column and multiple columns. So we have 2 columns here, into 2 columns, full width navigation, full width main contain content header, we have the main content, 3 columns, flex container and flex item, okay, in 3 columns, full width special, 3 columns, blurbs, flex container with flex items for the children, in the main, full width footer, end footer, okay, not too bad. If the comments are distracting and make it difficult to absorb the flow of the code, take a look at the index no comments HTML file right here. And you can see that this is the exact same thing, but without the comments. It may be easier to see how elements are nested in the no comments file. If you do examine this, be sure to return to the regular index file because that is what we will work in throughout this chapter. So if you work in this index no comments.html, but you're loading the index file, make sure you're loading one or the other, but we will be working with the primary index file. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to code the general styles that are not unique to any one region of the page. Note the provided CSS file already has the code to import 3 Google Fonts. Yes, we looked at that. Add the CSS rules in this activity one right after the other in the order of the steps. Save our changes and refresh the page after each step to see what rule has been accomplished. So the first thing we're going to do is add the general styles. / bunch of stars, general styles. Is better than major styles. But alright. I'm going to set a universal selector. Let's see, box sizing, border box. That's nice and easy. Save, refresh, not much difference. Okay. Add the following rule to set the default page font and create a top margin in the viewport while removing the side and bottom margins. The gap at the top creates a space for the nav bar to later reside. So body, that is a font of 17 pixels / 1.5, that is relative. Let's see, font is TAJAWAL, and our L and our fallback font is a sans serif. Let's see, margin for REM 0 and 0. Alright, and save. Okay, we got a margin, we have a font, and we're good. Moving on, H1, H2, H3, font family, Merriweather, and that is a serif font. Now, why aren't we using just font by itself? Well, font by itself with only one value, in this case 2 fonts, is not valid when it comes to CSS. If you're going to use font by itself, you want to make sure that you have more than one property, more than one value. In this, the 2 sets of fonts does not classify as more than one value. That is one value. So we're using font family for that. Save. Refresh. Hey, look at that. We got that. All right. Next is border around the image. So IMG. Border 333 solid 1px. Close the brackets. Save. And we got a border. Nice. Now for the width. Okay, the design is comprised of 7 rows that alternate between a single column and multiple columns. We will create one rule with a grouped selector that targets all of the rows that need an explicit width. So add the following comment to the end of the file, / widths for anything needed to be centered on the page, /. All right, starting out with page header, nav UL, pool, COLUMNS, blurbs, and footer P. Now keep in mind that some of these have hashtags or pound signs in front of them, meaning that they are IDs. others do not, which means we are selecting them by the elements. So margin is 0 in auto, making it nice and centered. Width is 1183 px because we have that for reasons. And the last one, we're going to put in all caps. Border. No, I want all caps. Border. B-O-R-D-E-R. Red, solid, and 1px. And you may be asking me, why are we putting all this in caps? Well, this is temporary, and by putting it in caps, we are saying to ourselves we will delete this later. You can add a comment after it saying, need to delete if you want, but it's just a little extra work. If you just make it caps, hopefully you will be able to see it. If you want to add a comment, you are more than welcome to. So the following rule after the comment is set to target elements at a width of 1183 pixels. 1183 comes from the target width of 1200 pixels minus 17 pixels for the browser's right scroll bar. Note the final declaration is temporary and we put it in caps. Alright, so we save, we refresh, and there we go. Now we have a nice red border. We can see it against the white background. Other items don't have them. And in this case, well, that'd be the A side. Okay, other items, good. Specials and footer, good. Okay. For the page header, page header, star, good. Okay. Page header, display, come on, display, flex. And that's all we're doing with that. Now we're going to be adding different items to the container's children. In this case, page header, div, first child. So we're selecting the first div inside page header. Flex of 1, order 2, and text align center. Now before I save and refresh this, let's take a look at the index page and see what the first child is inside of the page header. We go to the index, we go page header right here, and the first div tag contains the H1 and the P tag. Okay, that works. We go back to the CSS file, page header, div, last child. Could you say inth of type 1 and inth of type 2? You could, but first and last child just makes it easier. Flex of 1. So we're making these things equal. Margin right 0.5 rem and order as 1. So we're putting this in alphabetical order. So F, M, and O. And we're saying the last one should be first before the second one. So we save, we refresh. And now we have the image on the left and the text on the right, even though in the index file, just a bit of a refreshment from the last chapter, we have the image second in the flow of the page. We're selecting the first child or the first inth of type 1 div, and then the last child or the inth of type 2 for div. In this case, we're switching their order. Okay. Add the following to these heading style for the right column. Page, spell page right, page header, H1, font, size, 60 px, and margin of 0. So we're taking away the margin. We save, we refresh, and now we bump that sucker up to a big size. Next, page, spell page right, page header, P. Font. And for this, we are using shorthand because we have multiple values. Bold. Small caps. 50 px, 1.5. KADWA. KADWA, spell that right. And that is a serif font. And margin of 0. We're taking away that as well. So save, refresh, and hello, that is big. Okay, that's neat. What's next? Navbar. Slash star navbar star slash nav background color hashtag 005583. So we cannot make this a shorthand. We cannot say 05 and whatever because 83 does not repeat. Border top of 3 or hashtag 333 solid and 5px. Left of 0 position absolute top of 0 and then width of 100%. So we're taking this nav, bumping it up to the top and making it all the way across for the span. Close that, save, refresh, and now we have the nav bar spanning the whole width. The position is absolute, so it's taking it out of the standard flow of the page, which means it's also putting it on top of everything else. And the left and top is 0. So right here of the, do we have previous elements? No, we don't. So it's right here on the side. Okay, let's see. Nav UL, padding of 0. What does that do? That takes away the padding, which means that it bumps everything over. And then we have nav li, display inline. Save, refresh, and now we have all the items. It's a little hard to see, but they took away the little dots, and now they're right next to each other versus on top of each other. All right. Nav A, color, triple F, display inline block, font weight of bold, padding of 0.5 rem, so we're basing it on the root element, and text decoration of none, so we're taking away the underline. Let's make sure that's spelled right. That's not what I want. D-E-C-O-R-A-T-I-O. There we go. Save, refresh, and now we have, okay, they're white, the underline is gone, the display is inline block, so it actually spans the whole width, and they are bold. Nice. And again, don't forget the red line is temporary. And the last thing we're doing for the nav is adding a hover pseudo class. Background color is white and color is gray. Save, refresh. Wrong window. Save, refresh. There we go. So the color is dark gray and we have a white background. Come on, brackets, load back up. Yeah. All right. Next is the main header. Yeah, shut up. Main header. So main header. This will style the header element inside main. It spans the full width of the design, so we're going to specify background color F2, F2, F1, which, what is that? Kind of off-white, okay. Border bottom, 9, solid, 1px. Border top, same thing, solid, 1px. Could you say border and then these rows and say border left, border right, 0? You could. Margin top, 1 rem for the root element. Padding, 1 rem for the root element. Text align center. Save, refresh. What do we got? This right here, okay. So we have a nice off-white grayish background, top and bottom border. Margin top, padding, and text align center. Good, okay. Close the brackets, we're good. Add the following to stylize the heading. Main header, H2, font size 42px, and margin is 0. Save, refresh, and we bump that size up. Good. Now before we go any further, I want to let you know that all this stuff that we're doing has already been pre-planned for us. We're just taking the examples that we've done for the responsive design and putting it to use. Will you actually be able to do this once you start designing and developing sites? You may after many years of experience, but once you're starting out, chances are you'll be doing this on a line-by-line basis, fixing one section after the other. chances are you won't be going through and automatically having all these styles ready for you, so you may have to go in and stylize the header H2 first. You may go back up and correct something with the navigation, and you may go back up and stylize the general aspect up here. You may go down here and stylize something that's supposed to be general or centered, then go back down to the nav, go back down to the main header, go up to the nav and the page header and modify that. So based on the fact that you'll be jumping around so much, I just want to give you a realistic example of how this will work. I'm just glad that the examples we're going through already have the code line by line ready for us. In other words, a best case scenario. Main header P, font size 24px, and margin 0. Save, refresh. That bumped the size up a bit and took away the margin. Good. And the class phone. Font size 36px and margin bottom of 0. We save, we refresh. That bumped up the phone to a larger size and took away the bottom margin. Good. Next is pull columns. All right. Hashtag or pound sign because we're identifying it by an ID. Pull column, C-O-L-U-M-N-S. Display because we're doing this as a container. Flex and padding of 0, 1 RAM. Okay, what does that do? Well, by default, that means that these three items right here, as they are children, will automatically have the display of, or the container display of flex. All these child elements we're actually going to be working with separately as children. So hashtag pull columns section flex of 1. So we're giving each of them a relatively equal position or size in the actual available flex space. And we say margin right 1 REM, not MRE, REM. Save, refresh. So that way, each of these has roughly the same size available, so they're equal in spacing, and they have a right margin of 1 REM. Good. Next, pull column, C-O-L-U-M-N, section last child, margin right 0. So basically, we're taking this margin right that we just did on the last one and taking it away, which also means that everything pull columns. There we go, columns. There we go. So it bumps everything over just a bit, increases the size, and takes away the right margin of this. I'm going to use the Chrome Developer Tools just to make sure we did our job right. Okay, so we have this first section right here. Come here. No, come here. Okay, I've selected an element, going up to the parent version of it. This section. Okay, flex right, or flex 1, margin right, 1 RAM. Okay. We go to the last element. Section. Last child, margin right, 0. Good. Okay, next item on the list is specials. And for that, we're going to specify special. So this right here, background color, F2, F2, F1. Looks like this is following the same example or same styling as the above. So could we have grouped that together with the main and heading? It's a possibility. We could. Not saying we won't, but we could. Next, we're going to stylize the special H2, font size of 42 pixels and margin 0. So it looks like we're basically copying and pasting all this. Special P, margin top and 0. We're just not including the phone class. So save, refresh, and there we go. And look, the phone class is already here. Sweet. Next are the blurbs. So this stuff down here. Blurbs. What a funny word. Hashtag blurbs. Again, this is a container, so we have display of flex and padding of 0 and 1 rem. We save, we refresh. Same thing happened before with the flex aspect. Down below, we have blurbs section. Flex 1, are we copying and repeating ourselves? Probably. Right or rem, text align center, which also means blurbs section. Let me spell that right. Section last child, margin right 0, and yes. The last thing we're doing, save, refresh. Good. Is we are specifying blurbs image border hashtag 005583 following the above solid and 5px. So we're overriding that. And we're also adding a border radius of 50%, making these things nice and round. Okay. Whoop, not active. 50%. There we go. So save, refresh, and look at that. Nice blue border and round. Neat. Almost done. Okay. Last we have footer. Not fodder, footer. Footer is, spell footer right. I cannot spell footer right apparently. Background color DEB887 and border top following the same things as above, solid and 2px. Last thing we're doing, footer P, padding of 1 rem. All right, let's check the footer. Nice orange color, got a background, got a padding. All right. So now we need to go back and clean some stuff up. So do you recall the temporary red borders, the ones that we're seeing right here? You need to go back and where was that nasty little thing? Here we go. Take this, delete, save, refresh, and there we go. Now we have a nice modern website, and it took us what, all of 15 minutes to code all that, although it was pre-planned for us. So if your browser window is at least 1200 pixels wide, the design displays without a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the screen. If your window is narrower and displays a scroll bar, we will fix that throughout this chapter and convert the fixed layout into a fluid and then a responsive layout. So before we jump into that, let's determine our breakpoints. So first, to find a breakpoint, we need to use the Chrome Developer Tools. So either go to the icon on the top right and click that, More Tools and Developer Tools, or on Windows, press Control-Shift-I, or on Mac, Command-Shift-I. Either way, as long as you get this weird looking window down here, or it could be on the wrong side, on the right, for a lot of you if you haven't used it before. You can move it around in case you want to make things a little easier, such as making the size more or less the code and the actual visibility of your page less, or you can press the 3 dots and change it to the bottom. I just like the bottom because that way it gives me more horizontal working space, and I can see the full code here and the CSS. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to put this into a mobile development standpoint. So what you want to do is you actually want to click this little icon right here, Toggle Device Toolbar. Looks like a cell phone and a tablet. Once you do that, now increase this window just a bit. Notice that we have an item up here that wasn't there before. I'll disable and re-enable it. So you can see that it actually appears up here. And this actually gives you a good set of tools to work with to develop for mobile environments. You can set it for responsive. You can set it to some kind of preset phone system, such as iPhone X, Pixel 2, Pixel 2 XL, even Galaxy S5 if you want to see the different sizes, even iPads if you want. The good thing is you can also click these items right here and have it automatically resize based on what you click, such as a small mobile or a large laptop, or even if you want to go big, a 4K size. You can even specify the manual sizing up here in case you want. So responsive, 320 by 500, and that will automatically resize it for me. Or I can say 320 by 300, and it resizes the window. You can move the horizontal and vertical scroll bars to make it bigger or smaller based on your sizing. You can increase or decrease the zoom if you want, making it smaller just in case. Or you can increase the zoom in case you want to see the full thing. And if you want to work with the loading of images and other resources, you can toggle the offline, low-end mobile, mid-tier mobile, or even just pure online to see how things will load. Last but not least, you can click this rotation button to change between portraits and landscape mode, so you can see how it will react on different environments. So we're going to convert what we have and put it into a fluid layout. So we're going to specify the widths as percent rather than pixels. We can also set the flex items to be allowed to wrap. Lastly, we'll ensure the large photo at the top of the page displayed centered as if its neighboring column wraps to the second row. So we go back to our CSS. Let's see. In the blurb, the item right here, the line 31, width 1183 pixels, we'll specify that a width of 90%. Okay, we're going to limit the elements from growing any wider than the original width, but we're also going to make it so that the elements, as long as they don't max out at 1183, they can be with a width of 90% of the browser. Okay, nice and easy. This is why a group selector was used rather than adding a width declaration to an individual rule for each. One change to this rule affects all the elements at once. So we save, we refresh, and as long as we don't go beyond the 1183, which in this case, yeah. Oop, I didn't say max width. There we go. So save, refresh. Okay, decrease in size. Decrease in size. Why aren't you decreasing in size? Oh, because it's the wrong thing. Okay, max width 1183, width of 90%. If we decrease this size, you'll notice that it sets at 90% of the width. However, if we go beyond 1183, you notice that the actual width of it stays the exact same. Let me show you what I mean by putting the border back, for example. Border 1px, red solid. We save, we refresh, and you can see that the border is now back. If I decrease the size, you'll notice that it actually decreases the actual size of the page. But if I increase it, because it's set to 90%, and I go beyond 1183, no matter what size I set, that 1183 was the max width it actually has. Alright, take off that border again. Under page header, we're going to add a rule for the flex wrapping. So page header, display flex, flex wrap, and wrap. Going to copy this, put it under pool columns, not nav, not main header, pool columns. Flex wrap, and then we're going to put it under blurbs. Flex wrap. Locate the page header P rule and add a new rule under it to center the image in its container, which will only apply if the columns wrap. So page header, page header, page header, here we go. Page header, IMG, display block, and margin of 0 and auto. So by itself it doesn't really do anything, but as soon as the page header is decreased to a point that it has the center alignment, it will automatically be display block and have a center margin. Save your changes and refresh the page. Save changes, refresh the page, and visually there may not be any difference. Let's decrease our size. Okay, well, one thing I've noticed is that the top image automatically bumped up to the top. Okay, look at that, boom. Okay, that's nice and easy. And then the columns down here have automatically stacked on top of each other, at least 1, 2, and then 3, because there's not enough space to display this once we decrease the size. We go even further, and it's still doing the same thing. That's okay. We'll fix that in just a minute. The bottom one, though, still stays at the exact same size. Okay, let's keep working. Well, actually, what we're going to do is we're actually going to stop right here and jump into the responsive images to make it nice and easy. So, that's it for this video, or this Code With Me video. I know it's quite long, but hopefully you learned quite a lot. In the next video, we'll talk about flexible images and jump into more of the dynamic aspects of these elements. If you have any questions about this or anything in Chapter 16, please let me know via email or on Twitter, and I'll get back to you with the best possible answer.